The Senate Committee on Economic and Workforce Development is being called to order. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Here.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. You have a quorum.
We have established a quorum. We will begin today's hearings with Senate Bill 245. Senator Crawford, begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you getting me in first. I have a gubernatorial appointment, so I'm trying to be two places at once. I appreciate the opportunity to present Senate Bill 245. You do have a sub in front of you that I'll be talking about. That's the bill I'm going to present. We had made an error and pulled in some things from a prior bill, and we never intended for that to be in the bill, and so that's the reason for the sub. So this actually originated from a constituent issue. This bill will exempt used personal property not for resale from sales tax, and what we're talking about is auction items here. What's happening is, let's say in my part of the state, sometimes you'll have a public auction. If you're going to move, you may have an auctioneer come in and liquidate furniture, things like that. That is not subject to sales tax currently. But if that same auctioneer takes your stuff and takes it to a building and puts it with other things, it is subject to sales tax. Well, it makes no sense. It's the very same stuff. We're talking about garage sale items basically here, and they really should not be subject to sales tax. So this would just clarify that it is not subject to sales tax. It should be noted that this does not apply to used vehicles, boats, trailers, and outboard motors. We're just talking about personal chattel, so to speak.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Senator Gregory?
Sir, I just want to thank you for adding that provision in there. I know it affects a lot of different things, and I just want to appreciate you adding that provision.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, first up that would like to testify in favor, please come forward. Anyone that would like to testify in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Well, Senator, looks like you're getting off easy. Do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you. I think since it's a constituent issue, probably nobody cares but the constituent and me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 245. Next up, we will be hearing Senate Bill 462. Senator Gregory, begin whenever you're ready.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Senator Curtis Gregory, 21st District. Before you today, Senate Bill 462, Railroad Infrastructure Modernization Act, or short line railroads, is what we're targeting here. You might ask yourself, what is a short line railroad? And the best example I can give you to think of a short line railroad is we've got Interstate 70 sitting out there, but then as you're bebopping through Saline County, you see double E and YY as a lettered road. It's kind of a little lesser of a road, but that's how goods get to the interstate to get moving on down the road. And that's what our short line railroads are. They're kind of like that last mile or few miles to get to end users, and how product gets up onto the main lines to then get across the country. And we've got 860 miles of track and 12 different short line railroads. And that's really that last mile. A few statistics about them: over 339,000 carloads annually, which eliminates the need for 1.36 million trucks. So just think about that. If we didn't have these short line railroads, there'd be 1.36 million extra trucks going down our roads every single day. But unfortunately, some of our rail infrastructure is over 100 years old. I had the opportunity, I think it was back in December, to visit one of our short lines, and actually, I was like a kid in a candy store, got to go on one of the high rail trucks and drive, 10 miles of track, and just get a real up close and personal look of what the rail looks like. As we all know, inflation has hit everything really hard for cost of goods. There's been identified of over $600 million of critical funding needs. There's two parts of this. There is the Infrastructure Modernization Act, which is going to be looking at existing rail infrastructure. And then there's another piece of the pie here where we're going to look at economic modernization, so building rail spurs and things to actually get to the end user. So if a new elevator goes up, they might need a spur and maybe a mile or two of track to get back to that main line. That's where this project would come in. Was talking with people interested in legislation yesterday. Kansas passed something like this a few years back, and a new soybean crush facility was able to come in, and they tapped this program. And I don't remember how big the plant was, but they were able to find an actual end user for soybeans at that point, crush, soy oil, biodiesel, the whole 9 yards able to come out of it. So just a really good program to look to update our short line railroads and keep semis off the road.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have any questions? Senator Washington?
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning. Real quick, do you know any of the names of those railroad companies now?
Genesee and Wyoming is the only one that sticks to mind because that's the one that I got to write on.
Okay, because it says the taxpayer would be the railroad company, not necessarily the farmers who need to use it.
That is correct. They're the ones that own the track and own the railroads, but they serve like the Genesee, Wyoming. They're getting coal train. Used to get a whole bunch of coal trains up in Kansas City. They hook onto them, pull them south to the power plants that were down further south. Obviously, coal is not as big a one, but if you look, actually, the chairman's district is one of the biggest, most heavily traveled short lines. I imagine there's a lot of lumber and I don't know what other goods come off of that. Maybe some of the witnesses could answer those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, anyone that would like to testify in favor, please come forward. Begin when you're ready.
Chairman Brown, committee members, my name is Joe Arbona. I'm with Genesee and Wyoming, the railroad company that Senator Curtis mentioned. We own the Missouri and Northern Arkansas Shortline Railroad that operates here in the state. We have about 80 employees in the state. We also run the Branson Scenic Railway. We have about 50 shippers that we serve, including ADM, Scholar, Entergy, Western Trail Agribusiness, TAMCO, and other businesses. One of the challenges that we're facing with is that shortline railroads, because of the fact that for many years they just had very few customers and it was difficult for them, bigger railroads, to maintain them and keep them up, they were turned over to companies like ours. The way the financials are for us, we have very small margins. We actually, nationally, the shoreline railroads make up about 30% of the network of railroads, but we only have about 6% of the revenue for the entire industry. So we have to maintain 30% of the track with only 6% of the revenue. It's a real big challenge for us. This tax credit will allow us to invest $10,000 per mile to be able to improve them, to be able to increase speeds and make bridges strong enough to handle the standard weight cars. And for every $10,000 that we invest, we get a $5,000 tax credit, and that's how it works. We really appreciate the opportunity of talking to you about this today. We hope that you'll also consider, with regards to the industrial development tax credit, the opportunity for businesses that want to have rail service and not have to necessarily use trucks to be able to connect to the shortline railroads or other railroads that may be in the area, and that is also a 50% tax credit. We have great partnerships with trucks, and but at the same time, some customers prefer using trucks for some shipments and trains for others. And that in a nutshell is my testimony.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the witness? Senator Washington?
You said you have about 80 employees. Those are your Missouri employees?
Yes.
And thank you for being here this morning. I'm sorry. Do you only operate in Missouri, or I heard you say Arkansas as well? Or?
We have short. Well, the Missouri and Northern Arkansas actually is primarily in Missouri, but it also covers a little part of Northern Arkansas.
Okay, and you do that little tourism thing down in Branson? Yeah,
It's not our operation, but we allow them to run on our.
yeah, I've been on
yeah.
that. I like that.
I'm glad
Thank
you like
you.
it.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Please be sure to leave a witness form.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name's Ryan Peedy with Mickelson & Company. We help shortline railroads finance infrastructure improvement work in Missouri and across the country. We've also worked with a dozen states in the country implementing programs like this, and And I can tell you that this is a good bill. This is something that helps accelerate reinvestment in the existing rail infrastructure. It helps also build new rail infrastructure to create economic development opportunities, and kind of works in concert to ease supply chain congestion and create new opportunities. I think the things that I would leave you with is there are significant rail funding needs in the state, and at the same time, there's a lack of industrial development sites that have rail access currently. If you're going to build an off-ramp to connect with an industrial park or a customer, you're talking about $3 million a mile, and a lot of times that can be a deciding factor whether or not a deal happens. And so this program requires that the short lines or their rail customers, if they're investing in the infrastructure, make the investment first. And this is different from other tax credits in that you know when this investment's taking place, it's in hard infrastructure that's going to be in the ground for another 100 years. There's some rail infrastructure in the state that has a date stamp on it, and it's probably from the early 1920s. And so this will help make the existing network more robust. It'll link to new opportunities. It'll work in concert with the trucking industry to facilitate transload opportunities and also help the ports. I'd also mention that the economic impact that we've seen in other states with this is significant, anywhere from $12 to $20 for every $1 tax credit. So when you're thinking about where to invest your money and where to get a return, this will be a good win-win-win for the entire state. So thank you, and appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions to the witness? Senator Washington?
Hi, thank you for being here. Real quick, you said that the tax credit would be for the railroad companies and their customers. Which customers would we be talking about?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Senator, so there's two components. One would be for the short lines to reinvest in their infrastructure, and then there's a component of this that would help incentivize industrial development. And so if you're building, let's pretend, an off-ramp to get to a new business that's locating, the credit could go either to the railroad or to the customer that's building the new location, or in some circumstances, it could be the local economic development group that's trying to figure out a way to participate in the project. So there's some flexibility built into the program for whoever makes the infrastructure investment into the rail.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up, they would like to testify in favor. Please come forward.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Katie Gamble here on behalf of the Missouri Railroad Association. Want to go on record in support of the legislation and happy to answer any questions. I think they covered it all quite well, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions to the witness? Seeing none. Next up, they would like to testify in favor. Please come forward and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Matthew Smith with Associated Industries of Missouri. Just want to go on record of support of this bill. Rail is an absolutely essential supply chain infrastructure that businesses depend on in Missouri, and we'd like to see this bill come through because it's going to improve safety and investment in Missouri. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up, they'd like to speak in favor.
Chair Brown, members of the committee, my name is Luke Reed, and I'm here for the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry, here to support Senate Bill 462 because we believe it will incentivize further investment in our rail system, which is huge for transportation and economic development. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Any questions to the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anyone else that would like to testify in favor? Anyone that would like to testify in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Seeing none, this concludes. Well, Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
Yep, I'll just reference, Senator, you had questions about some of the customers, and I referenced it. It's Strategic Industrial Development Tax Credit is the other, bless you, proponent of this, and I referenced in Kansas, it was a 350 million gallon soybean crushing facility project was recently announced on a short line because of that particular thing. Over 2,000 carloads a year would go through it to that crush facility. So thank you, Chair and Committee, for letting me grace your presence this morning.
Real quick, Senator, is it a 40% or 50% match?
50. It's a 50%
Okay.
credit. And then it's also written if there's any other like grant funding or federal funding that comes through for short lines, that money has to be used first. That money doesn't get to be part of the credit. So that money has to get used first, and then they put their own money in, and their own money is what receives the credit.
Okay, thank you. This concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 462. So before hearing our next bill, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. We are in executive session. I move that the committee take up Senate Bill 294. Do I have a second? Second. This is Senator Brattin's bill we heard last week addressing personal property tax assessments. I move that the committee vote do pass Senate Bill 294. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. By your vote of 4-2, you have voted to do pass Senate Bill 294.
I now move that Senate Joint Resolution 14 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? Second. This is Senator Mosley's Veterans Property Tax Exemption Bill we heard last week. A Senate committee substitute has been distributed. I move that the committee adopt the Senate committee substitute for SJR14. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have adopted the Senate committee substitute. I now move that the committee vote Senate committee substitute for SJR14 do pass. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. By your vote of 6-0, you have voted to do pass Senate Committee Sub for Senate Joint Resolution 14.
I now move that Senate Bill 128 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. This is Senator Washington's bill we heard last week regarding distribution of grants by the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development. I move that the committee vote do pass Senate Bill 128. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. By your vote of 6-0, you have voted to do pass Senate Bill 128.
I now move that the committee take up Senate Bill 95. Do I have a second? Second. This is Senator Lewis's bill we heard last week. It wasn't last week. Was it a couple weeks ago? All right, 2 weeks ago. A Senate committee substitute has been distributed for Senate Bill 95. I move that the committee adopt the Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 95. Do I have a second? Second. And Senator, would you like to explain the substitute?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. After chatting with you all, got all the feedback, and so just made a few modifications. Just to recap what the bill does, it updates the definition of a diaper bank so that the diaper bank of Ozarks and Springfield can be included in the diaper bank tax credit, while the Senator Gregory has a similar bill that removes the sunset. after collaborating with some members of the committee, we decided just to put in the sunset for 6 years, and it's the diaper bank tax credit. The original bill had an elimination of sales tax for diapers and feminine hygiene products. And after discussing with members of the committee, we changed it to just ordinary tax like groceries. Currently, it is taxed at a luxury rate of 4.225. We're just changing it to 1.225.
Thank you, Senator. Is there any discussion? I'd just like to say I appreciate your willingness to work with myself and other members of the committee, and the fact that you kept the sunset intact, and we're able to work with members of the committee on the sales tax piece. I've decided to vote to advance the legislation, though I can't commit at this point to supporting it throughout the process. With the work that you put in, I believe it deserves to move forward and continue the debate. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the Senate Committee substitute, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have adopted the Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 95. I now move that the committee vote Senate Committee Substitute 95 do pass. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Brown,
Aye.
Gregory 21, Gregory 15, Lewis, Schnelting, Trent, Washington. By your vote of 6 to 1, you have voted to do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 95.
I now make a motion that we exit executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Next bill up, we will be hearing Senate Bill 370. Is Senator Moon here? There he is. Senator, begin whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Chairman Brown and the committee. I'm Mike Moon. I represent the Missouri 29th Senatorial District. Thank you for allowing me to present Senate Bill 370. 2 nights ago, I received an email from a constituent who asked me why we would want to not tax corporations on their profits. And there was a misconception, obviously, in the mind of the writer, because as I talked to companies across the state, I have found that the majority, with the exception of only one company, when they are taxed on their revenues, they pass that tax on to their customers. The one exception, you probably know, I won't mention the name, but I'll talk to you offline if you want to hear who that was, and it was a circumstance that was reasonable. In Senate Bill 370, it'll phase out the corporate income tax over a period of years beginning with 2025 tax year, and each annual reduction will be by 0.8%, and beginning with the 2030 tax year, there will be no income tax on corporate revenues. The reasoning behind this is really pretty simple. I mentioned that the consumer actually pays the tax because most companies will pass that cost down to them. I looked at some revenue figures from 2018, found that this was the year after the income tax was taken down to the current 4%. The net corporate tax was $300.2 million. The year following, 348.1. The next was 323.4. In 2021 was 678.1. 2022 was 711.1 million. 2023 was 884 million, and last year's was 893.1 million. So it seems obvious that the trend is upward when we reduce the tax. And so I think as we give companies more money, they will tend to invest it. They can also lower the cost of the sales as they produce goods. They could expand their operations, maybe hire more people, maybe even pay more money. I think it's a misconception that corporations are typically greedy. I know lots of company owners, and I know that they do treat their customers well. And so here's one other thing I'd like to mention about the income tax. It's a direct tax. It would eliminate, this particular bill would eliminate that over a period of years. And if it were enacted, Missouri would become one of only 3 states that levy neither a corporate income tax or a gross receipts tax, which is a damaging tax. This would be a competitive advantage for companies wanting to come to Missouri as an attractant. And the corporate income taxes are far more volatile than other taxes as well, as they're closely tied to the economy and business performance. So I think Missouri should lean and tend toward a decreased dependence on the corporate income tax. It is rising, but again, that is something that passes on to the customers, and I believe that we could see in our economy, with inflation as rampant as it is, relief for all concerned. Any questions?
Any questions for the senator? Senator Washington?
Hello, my friend.
Good morning, friend. Now, you shouted out some numbers that was going to show how we were going to get more money or less money.
Was I shouting? I'm sorry.
Well,
I'll whisper.
You know, it's a term.
No, it wasn't what we're going to get. It's what we have gotten.
So
when the
could you
income
tell
tax-
me those again?
You bet. I'll give this to you if you'd like it.
I would like it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you as well. 2018, $300.2 million was the revenues from the corporations on their total net general revenue. 348 the next year, 323 the next, 678, 711, 884, and then last year was 893. And I would imagine it'll probably increase even more this year. So those were collected on their company's revenues, and just what might happen if they would take those monies and give that back to the customers, because in most cases, all but one that I've found, companies did not or did pass that tax on to the consumer. So even though we're causing them to pay, we're paying as a result by the things we buy and things of that sort.
Senator, are you familiar with a company called Amazon?
I am.
And they pay 0 taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Have they passed that on to the consumer?
Well, I haven't looked at their company model close enough. Have you, Senator, to tell me that
No.
they have or
The
have
answer
not?
is no.
Okay.
Let me ask you about another thing.
All right.
You heard of this company called Walmart?
I have.
And I really love the Walton family because, you know, they MIZZOU folks, beautiful ranch in Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give me numbers on, like, you know, Walmart, who has a very, very low tax rate as it is, how they're passing that on to the consumer? And secondly, the pay of their employees, who tend to rank amongst the top 3 in the nation on social services, which means if I'm working at Walmart and I can still get SNAP and TANF, maybe my salary ain't that much. And then last thing, I got a couple more, but the one, you know, we had a corporate tax benefit of some sort federally a few years ago, I think 2017-ish or 2018-ish, that was supposed to trickle down into higher salaries and bonuses for folks. Are you familiar with that?
Not closely.
Okay. I think there's been several reports that it did not actually trickle down, but not to the rank and file, but what it did do is it trickled down to things like stock buybacks and higher earnings per share for those who are savvy enough to invest. So my final 2 questions are, one, we are down right now in the state of Missouri 1.6 or 7% year to date, which is a couple $100 million. And so if we were to take away another $893 million, how will we make this income up?
And what are we down in? You're saying collected
Yes.
collections? Uh-huh.
Yes, we're down in collections.
Yeah. Well, I know personally when I don't have as much disposable income or income in general, I stop spending on unnecessary things. I think
you consider unnecessary?
things I don't need.
Okay, what, give me some stuff that the state don't need.
No,
That
I'm
we
talking,
spending
about me
unnecessarily.
personally. Well, I haven't had the pleasure of being tapped to be on the Appropriations Committee. I did ask, but they didn't want me there, probably because I would find those things. Now, I could look, and I will do some searching, and I'll give you some
Ms.
answers.
Senator, you seem to look at the budget quite well when it comes to the floor during our 4 years here together. So just mention a couple things off the top of your head that you think we should cut. You know, you don't have to go to the whole 893. Just give me something.
I'll look at it and give you some answers.
Okay. And while you're looking at that, if you could get your staff to give us some figures on, what may be cut and the level of our social services, whether they've increased or decreased in those years that you gave us the statistics on the corporate tax collections. And the reason I say that is, we're, I think, 48 in K through 12 education funding. We're 49 in teacher pay. We had to pass a special tax, a gas tax, to pay for our roads. We definitely don't take care of our new mothers since we're 46 or 7 in maternal mortality and infant mortality. Those are just a few of the things that it sounds like, if we followed our federal government, we would be cutting. And the reason I point that out is when you're too sick or you die for having a child, then you're not putting anything back in the economy. Or when you're depressed because you lost your child because, the state doesn't have the right funds, or, like down there where you are, I think you got to drive all the way to Springfield or something for a decent hospital. So I just want you to keep those things in mind as we continue to talk about eliminating taxes, which I am all for not paying a quarter. And nobody wants to pay taxes. But I don't think I want to lose, like highways, like our railroads need to get to and from. We had a bill. You didn't hear that probably.
I did.
Okay, so I got a big, gigantic, wonderful railroad in Kansas City, the best in all of the continent, because it is the only railroad that actually goes all of the continent. CPKC is the only railroad that goes from Canada to Mexico. But they still need some highways and stuff to do what they do. And so if you could get me some figures as to how we're going to make up almost $1 billion in our state budget to continue to provide necessary services. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for presenting this.
welcome.
One thing I like to point out as a longtime business owner, when I set a price for a product I'm selling, there are a number of variables that go into that equation that determines what price I can sell it for and still be profitable. You have your cost of goods sold. In the restaurant business, that'd be, your case, hamburger buns, ground beef, things like that. You have your labor and other expenses. Factor into that, including taxes. And so any reduction on the cost side would therefore allow me to set a lower price point. And I can't speak to companies like Amazon or those very large corporations, but I know that as a small business owner, that if I don't lower my prices, then my competition down the road certainly is. And so there are free market forces that would, in some capacity, I believe, drive down the price of goods and services for consumers out there. When talking about like making up the revenue, I think you also have to factor in any potential growth also, because any new businesses that move here, they're going to need people to hire. That's inevitably going to attract some people to the state. That's more people paying into paying sales taxes, paying property taxes, paying income taxes, up until the point in which we eliminate that, of course. But I always make the comparison that when I had a restaurant, we did a Thursday night burger night, and we did like a $4.99 burger and fries deal. And based on, if you were to look at that statically rather than dynamically, you would assume that I'd have less revenue coming in. But in fact, the opposite was true. We put that special out there, and the volume of customers coming in increased so much that our sales actually more than doubled for Thursday nights. And so, that's just a real world example that I personally lived through, that I like to point out whenever there are questions like this raised. And once again, just want to thank you for presenting the bill.
Yeah, thanks for that input.
Any further questions? Seeing none, anyone that would like to testify in favor, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Byron Keelan. I'm president of the Freedom Principle Missouri in support of Senate Bill 370. We support phasing out the corporate income income tax because, as Senator Moon said, corporations really do not pay taxes. A common misunderstanding is that corporations, pay income taxes, but a study found that 52% of the total taxation falls on consumers through higher product prices, with capital owners bearing only 20% and workers bearing the remaining 28%. Phasing out the corporate income tax rate has many benefits. Mainly, it would raise Missouri's GDP growth rate. According to the Show Me Institute, Missouri currently ranks 26th in the United States for GDP growth, and eliminating this would make Missouri a more competitive growth state. It should be known like Iowa and Illinois actually have a lesser of a corporate income tax rate. Furthermore, eliminating the corporate income tax will also be good for increasing entrepreneurship. Missouri will become more attractive to both new and existing businesses with the elimination of the corporate income tax. So phasing out the corporate income tax will enable companies to not only increase wages but also create new jobs. And if Missouri wants to increase its overall economic growth, Senate Bill 370 is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Hold on. We got a question. You mentioned a couple bordering states that have lower corporate rates. Do you know what those rates are?
They're like at 2%. I think I don't remember the map off the hand, but that's like 2%. We're in the 3% range, I believe, 3 to 4%, and I think they're in the 2 to 2.5%.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Washington?
That was going to be my question. Do you know what states those are that are that low, and
Iowa,
what it is?
Iowa and I believe Illinois.
Okay,
Which is
so
shocking.
looks like Arkansas, but it's a scaling one. They start at 1 and go up to 4.8 if you make over $11,000. And again, I'll have the same question for you. How will we make up that? Iowa's at 5.5%, 7.1 if you go over $100,000. And you mentioned Illinois as well. They're at 9.5%.
I'd have to look at, like I said, Show Me Institute provided these numbers, so I don't have the map in front of me.
Okay, I'm looking at the Tax Foundation. Kansas is at 6.5, and the reason I wanted to mention Kansas is we're already lower, and I live on the state border, and we're already losing companies to Kansas a lot. Some of my favorite companies, well, I'm proud to be a Kansas Cityan, like AMC Theaters, the home of the movies, Applebee's. We almost lost Honeywell. We lost the Sporting KC. And we are nearing possibly losing Missouri's only professional football team, and also the Royals. And it is not because the taxes are lower. So Maine's at 3.5%. Nobody goes to Maine to open a business. It's a beautiful place if you've not been there. I wouldn't go in the winter. So I ask you, I know you support this. Now, North Dakota's at 1.41%. Do you know how many businesses are relocating there?
Actually, quite a bit. Fargo's a pretty good growth rate right now, and there's a big
Kansas City has
Marathon
almost
Oil
as
refinery
many,
there.
but Kansas City has almost as many people in the metro area as the whole state of North Dakota.
Microsoft has a big facility there.
Meta has a big facility with us, but it didn't bring us any.
I'm just saying
It didn't
is
bring
that
us any revenue.
The issue here is that what's causing corporations to leave is our taxes, and that's what's the eliminating of the corporate income tax is a big percentage of that. Is that if I can take my capital and move it to another state like Tennessee or another state like, it used to be Delaware, now a lot of
Tennessee at 6.5%.
I'm just saying they don't have any state income taxes. They don't have a lot of personal property taxes and all these other taxes that we have. And so when you add those on top of things, eliminating, the corporate income tax is another factor.
And I think that's great, but I want to know how that since you
Well,
decided to testify, how that's going to benefit the rest of us.
If they-
I'm a business owner, so I'm all for eliminating
Yeah.
it. However, I don't have any employees anymore since I've been here, so I'm not actually impacting or helping my community through my business, except for as a service provider, as an attorney. So my real question is, as we eliminate corporate taxes, how does that help the regular everyday person?
Well, if you're talking about manufacturing or things of that nature, that's capital coming into the state and that's creating
You mean the
jobs.
manufacturing companies that are laying off? You mean like Chrysler, who left St. Louis?
Well, there's
Or
other
General Motors, who closed a plant in my district?
facilities that are coming in. I mean, there's talk.
Could you get me a list of those?
I don't.
Or like the General Motors left in Winsfield that we gave a $50 million tax credit and they didn't hire any new people?
That's again that you're talking about. GM, but who knows whatever else they, it depends on the federal government mandates that puts on those. I mean,
But sir, you're here testifying that corporations will come to us if their taxes are lowered. And I'm asking you, who are those corporations?
well, and I'm telling you is that if a corporation is paying taxes, they're actually not paying taxes because they're raising your prices on the products that you buy, or they're laying off people in order to increase their profitability.
Which I believe they will still do.
Well,
So I'm asking you if you could get me information on those corporations that came to Missouri or North Dakota, since you said that there are a lot of entities moving there. If you could get that to the committee, who's moving to North Dakota, because it appears they have the lowest corporate tax rate in the state, I would really greatly appreciate that.
I can work
Thank
on
you.
that.
Any further questions? Seeing none, next witness, like to testify in favor.
Good afternoon. Matthew Smith with Associated Industries in Missouri. Want to go on record of support of this bill. Phasing out the corporate income tax will provide Missouri a more business-friendly environment for businesses to come and invest in Missouri, and will benefit all Missourians here. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Guess not.
Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else like to testify in favor?
Chair Brown, members of the committee, Luke Reed, Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry, here to support Senate Bill 370.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Senator Washington?
Do you know how many states do not levy a corporate income tax?
I do not have that number in front of me.
Well, if I tell you it's six. Six states. So we want to join those states. I think one of them is South Dakota. So, and Wyoming. And I've been to both of those places. Beautiful, amazing. I'm trying to get out my 50 states. But I tell you what I don't see. I spent a summer in Wyoming. Don't anybody tease me. I was a Girl Scout. I didn't see a lot of businesses and a lot of peoples. Skiing is wonderful there. But if you, as the Missouri Chamber, you represent the Chamber, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Get us a list of the corporations who have come to Missouri in the last 5 years and those that left and where they went. So we can have some real evidence here, some real facts as to how this is going to help us recover $893 million. That's a lot of money. And if they ain't going to South Dakota and Wyoming, you know, I got a lot of people in South Dakota living on, you know, reservations and stuff. So, but we only have 6 states that don't understand that corporations do need to pay at least a portion of their fair share of the billions of dollars. I mean, I would even be cool with small businesses under a certain dollar figure or something like that. But when we do this, you know, I'm not really cool with giving Jeff Bezos more tax breaks, or, you know, SpaceX, any Walmart, which I always pick on, or I have to. They're fellow tigers. So if you could get us some of that information, where they came from, where they're going. I know that under the previous administration, state administration, we did pull in some small manufacturers, but we also lost quite a bit. I think down in the Boot Hill, they're devastated by Tyson, and there was another company owned by a Mexican American that made a small part of some sort. I think he employed like 600 or 700 people, and he also left. So if we could get that, so we can see what the real impact of eliminating the corporate tax is, and if that's really the reason people leave and come to Missouri. Thank you.
Next up, any further questions? Seeing none. Next up, they'd like to testify in favor. Please come forward. Anyone like to testify in opposition?
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jeremy LaFavor, appearing today on behalf of the Missouri Budget Project. We've been in front of this committee before talking about some of our concerns with the fiscal note on tax cut bills. I will, some of the points have been made by Senator Washington, but the states without a corporate income tax have not seen, the growth of large Fortune 500 companies or economic activity as a result of their lower tax rate. We do see, of course, in this committee, you've seen a lot of economic development proposals to encourage economic investment and economic activity. Tax credit proposals, things like the railroad tax credit that we heard earlier, and some of the tax credits that you passed during executive session. Remind the committee that without a corporate income tax and without an individual income tax, tax credits no longer exist, and those opportunities to encourage economic investment and economic growth do not exist. Particularly when you target something like a corporate income tax, you're targeting it to a very specific group of folks, and it flies in the face is not the right phrase, but goes against the the belief of expanding the base and lowering the rate. Other states that don't have corporate income taxes have things like a gross receipts tax, which is a tax on virtually everything. And so anytime you do something big like this, there will be give and take. And with $900 million, there's a lot of take there. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, one point I did want to make, and I think this is important as we talk about tax cuts a lot. Missouri is a very low tax state. We are currently 46th in the country in the amount of state revenue that we collect per person. 46th in the country and lower than any of our neighboring states. And so as we think about the environment that we already exist in, this legislature has been cutting taxes since 2014, and the result of that is the lowest tax state in the region. And it behooves us to take a step back and look at our tax policy and see how is that allowing us to grow and invest in the schools in our school districts that need it the most, among other things. Happy to get that information to you, Mr. Chairman, and take any questions.
I was just going to ask.
You betcha.
What was the source for that statistic?
The tax the tax foundation
Okay.
put that together, but it's, based off of their revenue numbers,
Okay.
but we'll get that to you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions to witness? Senator Washington?
It wouldn't be fair if I didn't pick on both sides. Hi, Mr. LaFavor.
Hi.
So what is your solution if we don't reduce the corporate taxes? Then how do we get corporations to move to Missouri, especially our areas where we have higher rates of, even though our state has a very, very low unemployment rate as it stands, but we do have some areas that are higher than others, especially in our rural communities. Excuse me. What would be the solution if we do not reduce our corporate taxes?
Well, I think there's a lot of, there targeted investments in workforce development and community development, targeted investments in child care and early childhood education have shown to have tremendous ROIs for state governments and local
So like
governments.
a tax credit for that?
Tax credit, or, there's a lot of early childhood,
Because you and I live in Kansas City.
We do.
And we do have Kansas Cityans pay an additional income tax that only one other city I think in the state pays, that extra 1% earnings tax whether you live or work there, right?
Yep.
However, we have not seen a decrease in population, right? We grew,
That's right.
right? And while we have lost, I used to be a business reporter, for those of you who think it's weird that I know about all these corporations. But we have lost my beloved AMC and Applebee's. We have also gained, correct? Like we have a big Meta 800,000 square foot plant or something like that, right? In Kansas, our partner also has a corporate income tax, correct?
They do.
And they just got a humongous Panasonic
Yep.
battery or something. In fact, our region has grown tremendously in, say, the last 20 years. I mean, if you drive out to Johnson County, Kansas, 20 years ago, you saw cows, and now you see corporate America. It's one of the strongest places, but they didn't go there because they didn't have to pay corporate taxes, right? But they got other incentives
A lot
that
of it
brought
is
them to the
Access
area.
to human capital is the biggest thing that drives, or one of the biggest things that drives large corporate growth is access to the people that can work at the companies and make the businesses go around. And investing in education, early childhood education, is the way to get to that access to human capital. One of the ways.
And that state actually has really good education from pre-K to 12, right?
They do pretty well over there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Senator. Good to see you, sir.
Anyone else would like to testify in opposition? Anyone that would like to testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator, any closing remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I alluded to a page here that I left for the committee where it looks like as we lowered the tax rate, revenues increased. And why would that be? Well, I haven't gotten particulars, but I'll look for them. And apparently, either more business was generated or new businesses came in, resulting in the same. Amazon built a warehouse about 10 miles from where I live, and as a result, there's a housing boom. And I would imagine, talking to the new employees there and those who are in the surrounding areas, they're pretty happy with the results there. The one thing that I would, another business man I know who has about 400 plus employees told me when I asked him a couple of years ago about what he would do if the corporate tax was increased or decreased, he's without hesitation said he'd hire more and train more employees. So I think there would be a good benefit there. Since this sheet here shows that when we reduce the corporate income tax, the revenues go up, I'd be happy with just reducing it maybe to let's say 0.1%, so that we have the tax there, and then see if that doesn't measure out, then we still see increases. I don't know what it would be, but I'd be willing to have conversations to that effect too. But Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to present Senate Bill 370.
Senator, I have one question. If you could, while you're gathering all those stats for me, could you also gather for me what incentives Amazon received for that warehouse that they built in your area?
Oh, I know right off the bat, we had a Walmart in my district, Lawrence County. It's been open now about 10 years, I think. And I know they had some tax abatement agreements there. I didn't agree with them necessarily, but that was what attracted them to do it. Now it's benefiting the community.
Okay, if you
So
could get
there
me the
probably is.
Amazon ones, because that company itself, as we know, pays zero in federal taxes. So I'd like to see if they've figured out a way. And let's be clear, corporations have a tremendous amount of things they can write off to reduce their taxes already. So those that are complaining about high taxes may need to invest in better tax attorneys. I always say attorney first, and tax accountants.
That's a plug for your business, right?
I'm not a tax attorney, but my sister is a tax accountant, and she does not represent people like me. I will never make enough money for her. And she has several multi-million-dollar clients who pay nothing in the high tax state of California.
Well, that's the problem with loopholes, Senator. If we could implement something like a fair tax where there are no loopholes, you pay the tax on consumption, I'd be all for it. But as a small business operator, I look for loopholes too, and I'm sure that most people do as well.
It's just unfortunate that regular folks don't get those. But if you could please get us the information on what
I will.
all incentives and abatements that Amazon received for building a plant there,
Thank you, Senator.
and how much they paying them.
This now concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 370. Next up, we'll be hearing Senate Bill 184. Senator Cierpiot, please begin whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and senators. I can still use plural. Mike Cierpiot from the 8th Senate District in the southeast corner of Jackson County. I'm here to present Senate Bill 184. Senate Bill 184 reauthorizes the existing amateur sporting tax credit program due to sunset in 2025. The legislation is critical for Missouri communities to attract amateur sporting events that generate significant visitor spending and tax revenue to the benefit of all Missourians. These events help fuel jobs in the tourism and hospitality industries, generating tax dollars via overnight stays and restaurants, as well as showcasing Missouri. Since its passage in 2013 and full implementation in 2014, the tax credit has helped Missouri land more than 100 amateur sporting events. It was reauthorized in 2018. Senate Bill 184 will raise the annual cap from $3 million to $6 million and extends the date of the program through 2032. It also reserves $500,000 for smaller markets outside of Kansas City and St. Louis. It doesn't limit them to that, but it dedicates at least that much to those markets. The reauthorization legislation reduces the annual amount available through the Missouri Amateur Sporting Contribution Tax Credit Program from $10 million to $500,000. So in total, there's a net annual savings potentially to the state of that amount. I'd be happy to answer any questions. There's several people here that will testify.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have any questions? Senator Washington?
Thank you for being here, Senator. Why the reduction so much in the tax credits for donations?
Because they haven't materialized. They've never really generated much activity.
Okay. Do you think part of that could be the knowledge?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. And then I like this bill.
Mm-hmm.
We're Kansas City people. I like Big 12. I like NAIA. Hopefully one day we'll get Little League World Series. I hate the Jayhawks. I haven't said that all year, so I had to get that out. I don't like mythical.
I'm glad you cleared that out.
Mythical birds. What about the oversight? What agency's going to look that over? Because we want to make sure that people don't exaggerate their ticket sales just so that they can get a reduction.
Right. The Department of Economic Development has overall control of this.
Okay, thank you.
And let me just say that I've been really surprised by how much this does matter, I guess, because initially, before anybody did this, it didn't matter, but now other states are offering these incentives, and so if we don't, we won't. They just won't come. That's the world we live in, and these finders and location places are looking for the best deals to help them offset expenses. So, and on the positive side, even with us paying these tax credits, is a net positive for the state because
It
people
is.
come here. And
I
spend
do
a lot
have
of
an
money.
amateur. I have several amateur things in my district. If anyone wants to come and visit the historic 18th and Vine district, we have a great baseball arena there. We have a great soccer setup in the park in Swole Park, and those are both run by nonprofit and amateur organizations. So I definitely appreciate you bringing this.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, first up, they would like to testify in favor. Please come forward. Please be sure to leave witness form.
Chairman Brown, members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in support of Senate Bill 184 and the Missouri Amateur Sports Tax Credit Program. My name's Mark Schreiber. I'm the president of the St. Louis Sports Commission, the privately funded nonprofit organization that works to attract and produce major sporting events for the St. Louis region. We were involved in the creation and the original passage of the Amateur Sports Tax Credit Program back in 2013, and it's been a lifeline for our efforts. It's been a critical tool for our colleagues and our colleague organizations and communities throughout the state. This program is a difference maker in maintaining our competitiveness in an ultra-competitive industry. Without it, Missouri would miss out on revenue-producing opportunities as other states have upped their games because they realize the value and power of sports tourism. Since its creation, the program has helped Missouri land more than 170 events, attracting more than 1 million visitors and generating $900 million in economic activity. In just the last few months, we had 2 huge wins in St. Louis. We landed the 2026 U.S. Figure Skating Championships and the 2027 NCAA Wrestling Championships. These events deliver all that we can ask for in terms of impact, visibility, excitement, and yes, revenue. The amateur sports tax credit was key to those bids being successful. The program's proven to be sound public policy because the credit is issued only after an event takes place and is based on the actual number of people who attend the event. It's not projected. The state's insured of receiving a return on its investment. And it brings new dollars to our state in the best way by attracting people from outside Missouri to spend money inside Missouri. I'd like to just wrap up by telling you one of the things that's made me very proud of this program. In seeking its reauthorization in 2018, we made changes to better ensure that everyone in the state could utilize the credit. And that has led to great participation and engagement by cities throughout Missouri. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by colleagues representing Branson, Joplin, Kansas City, Maryland Heights, St. Charles, and St. Joseph, and also express the support from others, such as Columbia and Springfield, who couldn't attend the hearing today, but are fully behind the program and have provided letters of support. This is a model for how we can all come together and work together to deliver statewide benefit and help Missouri prosper. Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next up, they would like to testify in favor.
Thank you, Chairman Brown and the committee. My name is Jared Bruggeman. I'm the Executive Director of the Joplin Sports Authority, our local sports commission in the Joplin area. First, I want to thank you for all your service and everything you're doing as far as for our community, the state, and our local communities. I will say that this program makes a huge difference. And Joplin Sports Authority did not take advantage of this until basically 4 or 5 years ago. When we did take advantage of this program, we have recently, I would say, become a small championship capital for the country. We have hosted since 2021 29 national championships in Joplin.
Including this week, we'll be hosting the Junior College Division II Women's National Championship in basketball. It's 20 teams for 6 days playing 32 games. That generates a lot of economic impact in our community, and it's well supported by our community. Also, in the next 4 or 5 years, we've been awarded 17 more national championships. These are all small colleges, junior colleges, NAIA schools, and so forth. So in conclusion and wrapping this up, I know you have lots of things to do. We are highly in support of this, and if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions to the witness? Senator Washington?
Y'all still host summer track meets?
Well, we do, actually. We're in a rotation. It goes down to Arkansas and Oklahoma and comes back to us. The AAU national champion, or the
Yes.
regionals, yes, we do that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up in favor, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kathy Nelson, and I serve as President and CEO for the Kansas City Sports Commission. And I also wear 2 hats. I also serve as President and CEO for Visit KC, which is our Convention and Visitors Bureau in Kansas City. As I sit here, we are hosting Big 12 Men's Basketball Championships. We just wrapped up Big 12 Women's Basketball Championships. We hosted 30 games over 10 days, which equals about $33.5 million of economic activity in our city that would not be there without this legislation. So we have a lot of other cities that are wanting to host this. Right now we have visitors from Utah, Arizona, Florida, Texas. I mean, it's amazing to walk the streets of Kansas City right now to see all the school colors. So we are grateful for this opportunity. This year alone, we'll host NCAA Division I Women's Volleyball Final Four. We'll host Division I Women's Soccer Final Four. Next year, we have Division II Fall Festival. And then 2027, we have the Division I Men's Basketball Regionals again. This impacts us well beyond anything else we could do to host something like this. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Please be sure to leave a witness form. Next up in favor.
Good morning. I'm Marcy Bennett with the St. Joseph, Missouri Convention and Visitors Bureau and Sports Commission, MIZ. Okay, I'm liking the outfit. But as the smallest in this whole group of people and organizations that can pull in sporting events from outside of the state, we've done a heck of a job, and it's been because of this. This has really helped us as a smaller community. We're close to KC. We have great facilities, but it has really allowed us to make the athletes' experience better while they're here in Missouri. These people are from Minnesota, South Carolina, all over, and when they come to our community and to our state, they have a great experience, and we really could not do that without this, and we're very pleased to be a part of it, and we are totally supportive. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Next up in favor.
We do not get tax credits for hosting Chiefs training camp, though.
Okay. Well, thank you for that addition. Please begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Senate Committee on Economic and Workforce Development. My name is Chris Wilson, and I work for the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm here today in support of Senate Bill 184. The Missouri Amateur Sports Tax Credit is a crucial resource in our sports tourism marketplace. We have utilized this cost-covering mechanism several times, and it has afforded us the opportunity to book sports travel-related business with facility usage from St. Charles City to Wentzville and everywhere in between. The Missouri Amateur Sports Tax Credit is an invaluable competitive tool in our toolbox in bringing impactful out-of-state business to the St. Charles region. As we continue to source new sports tourism opportunities, we always check to see if the event would be eligible for the Missouri Amateur Sports Tax Credit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions to the witness? Seeing none. Next up, would you like to testify in favor? Just real quickly, how many people are still here to testify in favor of this bill? Anyone here to testify in opposition? Okay.
Good morning, Senators. I'm Karen Crispin, Executive Director for Visit Maryland Heights, and I also proudly serve as a St. Louis Sports Commission Board member. I'm here in firm support of Senate Bill 184. Maryland Heights is home to 24 hotels with over 3,500 hotel rooms. During the week, our hotels thrive with the business traveler, but it's our amateur sports complexes that drive our weekend business. Within a 5-mile radius, we have 3 state-of-the-art soccer facilities with 33 artificial turf soccer fields, including a standalone championship field with permanent seating. And Centene Community Ice Center is a first-class facility with 4 sheets of ice, with 1 rink serving as the St. Louis Blues practice center. The Missouri Amateur Sports Tax Credit continues to be a key to attracting many events to our community. I'd like to highlight 2. In early 2024, Centene Community Ice Center hosted the ACHA, American Collegiate Hockey Association National Championship, bringing 70 hockey teams for an 11-day tournament to our town. The results are an $11 million economic impact for Maryland Heights, St. Louis County, and St. Charles, with hundreds of thousands of dollars in state tax revenue generated. I'm happy to say the 2025 ACHA tournament is moving into Centene Community Ice Center today with 82 teams competing and has been secured to return for the next 3 years as well. The Amateur Sports Tax Credit has played a key role in bringing this event and all its economic benefits to Maryland Heights through 2028. In March 2024, Centene Community Ice Center also hosted the NCAA Men's Ice Hockey Regional with a $2 million economic impact. I was fortunate to be in the sold-out crowd, and it was really exciting. It's essential that Senate Bill 184 is passed for us to continue to bring first-class events to our communities and compete with surrounding states. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Mr. Chairman, Shannon Cooper today representing the City of Kansas City, the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Civic Council of Greater Kansas City, and maybe can't add much more to what's been said other than to offer you an invite to come to Kansas City some weekend and see us overrun by youth sports participants. It happens about every weekend, and it's a great economic boom for the city. So we're in full support of this. Be happy to answer any questions you or your ghost committee might have today.
I might have to take you up on that. I appreciate that.
You're always welcome. Senator Cierpiot and I will show you a good time.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next up, they would like to speak in favor of the bill.
Chairman Brown, my name is Tracy Kimberlin. I represent the Missouri Association of Convention and Visitor Bureaus. We have about 35 members, large and small, scattered all through the state of Missouri. We are very much in support of House Bill 184. Would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Could you repeat your name real quick?
Yes, Tracy Kimberlin.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Next up in favor.
Mr. Chair, Will Mars on behalf of the Branson Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce just want to go on record in support, as well as Visit Springfield, Missouri. This is a great tool of economic development for Southwest Missouri, so just thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor. Seeing none, anyone that would like to testify in opposition? Seeing none, anyone for informational purposes only? Senator, any closing remarks? This concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 184. With no further business coming forward the committee, I now make a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.